My name is Chris Neebe. I'm the creator of the Mysterious China series. Today, I'd like to address the history of the Japanese puppet state Manchukuo. For centuries, Imperial Japan attempted to annex Manchuria in the northeast of China. Finally, in 1931, they succeeded and ruled for almost 15 years with an iron fist, committing some of the most hideous war crimes of World War II. After Imperial Japan's surrender in 1945, Manchukuo was dissolved and returned to China.
This is a film about how the Axis powers of World War II planned to take over the world and the means they employed to reach this goal. In the northeast of China lies the vast land of Manchuria. Mysterious, strategic, and rich in natural resources, Manchuria has been a battleground for centuries as China, Japan, and Russia fought bitterly to control it. The heroic contributions and enormous sacrifices of China as an allied nation in World War II are often overlooked. Japan's imperialistic ambitions had steadily increased during the 1920s, focusing on the complete conquest of Manchuria. This was done in strict secrecy under the code name Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department. Emperor Hirohito, galvanized by the new alliance, continued to build his military might. The experiments conducted in Pingfeng and other facilities were meant to explore the depths of human destruction and survival. The researchers dared to answer every question they could, and they accomplished this by any means necessary. Unit 731's experiments were mostly performed without anesthesia. Most documentation was destroyed or repatriated, making the full scope of Unit 731's activities difficult to ascertain. Fleas would be introduced to plague-infected rats, gorging themselves with the disease, infecting agriculture, reservoirs, wells, rivers, and other areas with deadly pathogens. Like Hirohito, the God Emperor of Japan, Adolf Hitler believed that he had been invested with divine powers. Hitler acted as Messiah, inviting submission and promising benediction. Inspired by the military successes of Nazi Germany, Imperial Japan, without warning, attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, destroying most of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. The attack came as a profound shock to the American people who had, until that moment, been extremely reluctant to fight.
But China didn't have the modern machinery, nor did she have the 6 or 7 years. So she began building the road with her bare hands, over mountains, through jungle and swamp, from India to China, to connect with the old Burma Road.
Both Adolf Hitler and Emperor Hirohito overreached in their ambition for global domination. Another World War II tragedy was the plight of comfort women. These were young, innocent girls abducted into Japanese military brothels in Manchukuo and elsewhere before and during World War II and forced into sexual slavery. Hundreds of thousands of comfort women endured serial rape in so-called comfort stations. Japan's politicians have openly taunted the victims of their past. Japan's Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, has gone so far as to pose in a military jet with the tail number 731. can the tragic history of China and Japan at last be laid to rest?
Hello, dear folks. Welcome to the show. Jack Chow on East West with G&E TV. By looking at the setting, you will probably know what we're talking about because my good friend Chris Neby, his face is so familiar to my audiences, known as an advocator for history. He's a digger into history because he digged out the document from history and he put it in his own way to broad daylight about what had happened during World War II, including history before that, including history after that, and also today, once again, we're talking about an additional one of his masterpieces, the new release. What's the name? What's the title of it?
Unit 731.
Unit 731. The title might be not familiar to everybody, especially young people, younger generation, or young folks, anyway younger than me. By the way, I'm only 35. All right.
You look good.
I wish. Okay. They might not know about it. To bring it as a piece of education, there is a quotation that I want to quote from my dear friend Mark Liu. He says, "History lives only when people recall." Right? So, to my good friend, Mr. Chris Neby, a producer and a writer and a director, and sometimes an actor, the big one, number one actor in his own documentary, here is the welcome from G&E TV.
谢谢你，老朋友。
All right, good.
Thank you.
Very good. You speak perfect Chinese already.
And no, I have a very good partner.
Yeah,
in
probably I should
Beijing.
arrange you on the Chinese show instead.
That's it.
One day.
Right, good.
She can be the translator.
Sure, let's do that.
Yeah.
And speaking of the translator, no, matter of fact, she's not only a translator, she is a big assistant. To the right side of Mr. Chris Neby is my dear friend, my lovely, beautiful friend, Amy Chan, also known as Xiaoxia Chan by the Chinese name, Chen Xiaoxia. What a beautiful name, lovely name, right? Anyway, not only young, not only beautiful, but very smart, and she's been assisting him for quite some time in his projects, including the Burmese Road.
No, we made almost all 15 films together.
All the 15.
And because she's our Beijing-based producer, everything
see.
in China she handles.
All right. So to Amy, welcome to the show, please.
Nice to meet you.
All right, nice to meet us. All right, good. So to us, to we the people, as a matter of fact, we do not even know exactly about what happened in China. For us to understand China, understand the conflicts between China and Japan, even now over the small island, it is much necessary. It is so necessary for us to know what they did to China, what they did to human race, what they did to civilization during World War II. Am I right?
Well spoken.
Sure, all right, good. And if you recall the past two shows, and the three shows with Mark Liu, with my friend Ken Hemming, we did quite a recall of history during the Nanjing massacre when 200, and new record says that's 300,000 people slaughtered within a period of 6 weeks. I used to do 6 in the Chinese way, this way. Lots of people, my American English-speaking friends say, hey, that's 2, all right, Chinese way, 6 weeks of time. So that's quite a slaughter, quite a genocide, never happened before, right? So, and after. So, Chris, the effort of on your side to dig into the history of Unit 731. I was born in Dalian, China, northeast, supposed to be northeast. I heard something about it. People not from that area might not even know about it. Can you please give us a briefing about it, please?
Yeah, Japan has always tried to occupy Manchuria, which is in the northeast of China, and in 1931 eventually they succeeded and established a puppet state called Manchukuo. And that was a state which also included some parts of today Inner Mongolia, Haila, Manjoli, Harbin, was in Heilongjiang province, in Chongshan, what was it? Changchun.
Changchun
Was in
province.
Yili province. And they established that puppet state and ruled it from 1931 until 1945, when it was dissolved and returned to China. And in Harbin and also in Changchun, they had secret experimentation facilities where they were experimenting all sorts of things for biological and chemical warfare. And also, in addition to that, they were trying to experiment with extreme cold, with extreme heat. They would have flamethrowers, and they would have people stacked up in certain distances, and then try with flamethrowers and see how much the first one would be burned, the second one would be burned, and the third one would be burned. Or they would shoot, would have a circle and then bomb with a grenade and see how the effect was on the people in the circle, the closest one and the further away one. And they were doing experiments by taking limbs of operating surgically, removing a limb from a body, and then like removing both of your legs and then changing it and putting it back again. And all sorts of very gruesome experiments under the command of Shiro Ishii. He was the main man in control of this.
In charge of that unit.
Of that unit, and that unit was very big, and it was secret, totally secret, and totally isolated. It was in a suburb actually in a village near Harbin. Now it's a suburb, and the conditions. They also did experiments with plague and anthrax and other chemical things, which they would infect fleas and then put it in porcelain shells and drop them on Ningbo, Shangde in Hunan province, in Ningbo in Zhejiang province, and elsewhere. The records are scarce because they were all. Most of the records were destroyed in 1945 when the Japanese withdrew from China. And also Shiro Ishii and his group of scientists, they were actually very established scientists, and they were pardoned, or they were not prosecuted in exchange for giving the data to the Americans. So they got away scot-free.
So the guy who has blood on both hands got away.
Yeah, he died in 1959 in Tokyo of throat cancer.
All right, so strangled by somebody or
no,
just
throat
himself?
cancer, probably he was smoking.
By God.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway. My dear friend, if you know that, you will know exactly what exactly happened in China during the war. I learned about it a little bit when I was little. I read on my textbook about the Unit 731 and about the heinous crime they committed, and they committed for quite some years in a row.
Yes,
and lots of people died in the most incredible way, even too graphic to describe. All right, they would even line people together, like 7 or 6 or 7, and shoot a bullet to the front and see how many bodies they can go through as a test.
Yeah.
Right. And like you say, they will inflame a body in the front and to see how much the burn will go to the next one and the next one, like that kind.
With flamethrowers.
Yes, and then they will do the gas chamber. And they would do sulfuric acid.
Yes.
Right, on human body.
Yeah.
And they will take your limbs, your arms, your legs off for the experiment. Right. And anything that word cannot describe, they did. They committed. I do not understand why there's not a big voice digging that out, and I really owe him a great debt, and owe her a great debt, my dear friend Amy Chen, who has put her efforts in the exploration of the archives ocean,
Right.
yeah, to find that out, to have brought it in
Yeah.
public, right? So, Amy, let's take a short moment out, and I would like to hear from you. What is the take from the Chinese side about audiences, how they like to see it, what their response is? Shall we please? Yeah, all right. When we come back, all right. So, okay, my dear audience, today joining me in the talking about his masterpieces. There are 15 of them in a row, called the whole thing called the Mysterious China or China Mystery.
Mysterious China.
Mysterious China, the former way, Mysterious China, and the creator, the big man behind it, hands-on is my good friend, my dear friend, Chris Nibbing, to whom I respect a lot, not only for the friendship, but for the contribution to humanity. And his assistant, her name is Amy Chan, not only for your efforts, but also for your contribution to community. So let's